A genuine heart is unmistakable, like an adult moose in a snow-covered clearing. They're pillars of light, some positive saturated color, and they seem to pierce any landscape where you find them. It doesn't matter if they're wealthy or not, in poor health or famous or whatever. They seemingly override the laws of human nature in small, detectable ways, noticeable ways. If you're living a good life, you've found more than one of these people in person, making parties seem heroic, making tragedies seem fulfilling, making your blunders seem like opportunities. A genuine heart is unmistakable. I knew one genuine heart personally, someone like Bob Ross. Bob Ross, as I'm sure most of you know, was a painting instructor on TV. He'd often say, "There are no mistakes, only happy accidents." And what was beautiful about that was that he earnestly believed that. He wasn't pandering to a crowd that failed to meet their own expectations. He felt that way. One look at his permed afro and tucked-in shirt, and you know he never condescended to anyone in his entire life. You can look at similar painters like Thomas Kincaid, and for all their technique and mastery, those paintings feel so soulless, so empty, vacant, almost depressing. But Bob Ross put himself into his work. I knew one genuine heart personally, someone like Robin Williams. The job of an actor is to make the character on the script come to life. But he accomplished that by letting his personality shine through. His smile was so beautiful. It wasn't perfect, it was wabi-sabi. It was a smile that didn't lie about a depression that was creeping around the edges of his heart. But like a soldier unwilling to go peacefully, he smiled, waiting for the ambush to take him. Despite taking his own life, I'm sure he prevented countless people from doing the same without even meeting them. I knew one genuine heart personally, someone like Mr. Rogers. If you go into a department store or clothing store during the Christmas season, you'll hear something approaching the soundtrack of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. But it'll be empty, vacuous, vapid. Mr. Rogers' jazzy soundtrack and relaxed atmosphere was enough to convince Rhode Island Senator John Pastor to allow PBS to have $20 million. Just a few words and lyrics, and boom, he melted a tightwad senator's soul. I knew one genuine heart personally. His name was Nigel Shea. He had a typical upbringing for a Korean-raised kid in America. His family moved from Seoul, South Korea to Richfield, New Jersey a few years before he was born, and soon after opened a Korean barbecue restaurant. We came to the restaurant to do our homework often. We'd sit down by the window, eat a late lunch, and then buckle down in our studies with empty plates pushed to the side. We think it brought in customers. Nigel was almost otherworldly in his cheeriness. Not almost, actually. He was just otherworldly. His smile was unnaturally bright, even after eating. His English was very poor, relying on vocabulary with very little grammar skills. But somehow you always knew his meaning by the end of his statements. He'd animate when someone would walk into the restaurant, something that reek of desperation in most mom-and-pop shops, but there was a sort of attraction that he gave off that just pulled people in. Not that he was attractive or something, just that attitude he had. Anyways, when I was full of hatred and anger over breaking up with a girl named Tiffany, he told me he'd take me anywhere, and he'd do anything I wanted to do. he just diffused that aggression so quickly. It was such a shift in me, so quickly. At 16 and 17 respectively, we went to a strip club. We didn't get in, they kicked us out at the door, but we went to another strip club that didn't card us. The place was so clearly on the brink of closure, it was less than a year after that it did. The girls had an air of something wrong with them, and the sound system sucked, and it was all terrible. All of it. But Nigel made it a great night. It was just about the gesture, you know? Clarence didn't become a friend of ours until late into high school. His father died, and Ridgefield Memorial ran a campaign to help with the cost associated with his death. It was sudden, but Nigel took charge of the campaign. Quickly, Clarence just became part of our group. He mourned, of course, but recovered in time for the SATs. Truly, I have no idea what kind of person Clarence was before the death, and becoming friends with us. According to him, he wasn't a very happy person. But that's not the guy I know now. There's another person I want to talk about, but I won't say their names. They didn't have a great go at the SATs, and their parents put a lot of pressure on them. So much so that they were thinking about suicide. People quick to say it was for attention are wrong. This person made only one attempt at saving themselves. They called Nigel, a person that they barely knew at all. Being that he couldn't drive, he woke me up at 2 a.m. to go see this person. That person knew Nigel was the only hope that they had. They knew that if one person could talk them down from ending it all, it was Nigel. They were right. They tried the SATs again, and they did well. To this day, only Nigel, Clarence, and myself know about this suicide attempt. Nigel went missing freshman year of college. He just vanished from his home. He stopped going to classes or working at the restaurant. His behavior changed somewhat leading up to this, but not much. Nothing that can't be explained by the pressure and routine put on you by college. He hung out less and talked less, focused on studying, but he was always very studious. Everyone that knew him was shocked by the disappearance of Nigel. Police investigations didn't turn up any clues. I worked with Nigel's parents and put up missing signs around the city and the campus. It was what he would have done for me, after all. Before this, I never really thought about how a person could just vanish like that. I was sad. Everyone that knew him was, but I was mostly feeling confusion. Like, the sorrow was just overridden by how confused I was. Who would want Nigel gone? For what? When would they have the opportunity to make him disappear? How could any of this occur? It just didn't add up. But eventually, I had to consider the unthinkable. What if Nigel wanted to vanish himself? What if he was tired of all of us? What if he didn't want to be around our neediness anymore? What if his people skills put too much pressure on him? What if he just fucked off to some lonely place for a lonely existence? I never thought about the possibility that he wasn't a genuine heart at all. Maybe we just saw something in him that wasn't there. I had to consider that we were in a masked illusion, and what Nigel represented to us wasn't real. Just a smile and a few gestures. It meant the world to us, what he did. But was it all fake? Senior year of college, I heard from Nigel's parents. I was still in contact with them, and I still ate at their restaurant regularly, but not sitting in the same place. It was just too painful. It didn't seem right. So, When I got a panicked call from Nigel's mom, I thought that they discovered where he went, and I assumed the worst. But we still didn't have any answers. The CIA confiscated Nigel's cell phone, laptop, and gaming rig. We got no explanation out of them, however, so that was all for naught. That was 2 years ago now, and nothing had come of whatever investigation the CIA is or was doing. We used to call weekly. Now we just call monthly. I wouldn't even call anymore, but Nigel's parents still want me to. Better than them calling in broken English and getting nowhere. I'm left considering what happened with no concrete answers. The Chays are too old to have another child, and that child can never replace Nigel. But I'm recounting this all now because I have a new working theory. It won't provide anyone with any satisfying answers. Certainly doesn't do that to me. But I know roughly what must have happened now. I like to think that I'm a good person. Clarence definitely is. So is the person that contemplated suicide. Everyone Nigel helped was decent. And he helped a lot of people. But just as he was genuine to us, the people who he helped were genuine to him. What would happen if he met someone that wasn't genuine? Someone that wasn't decent? Someone with a sob story and a plan for something awful? Would Nigel help?